What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of Xfl News Hub, and on this week's show, the XFL has made some hires. Can you believe it? We go through all of them, plus Paul Reeths on the program, and he talks to us about some USFL history. Really interesting, good conversation with him. Talk about his book, which I'm definitely getting, and now that we have some XFL news, maybe a little bit in the show, later in the show, we can get to Finn the dog, his appearance on the show as well. So how do you get in touch with the show and be part of the show? It's easy. You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We will also read that on the show as well. And you can watch us live on XFL. Watch XFL Week in Review live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on the YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch as well. Welcome, my friends. We have great news. Finally, XFL news. Super excited about that. We'll give you all the news. We'll get into our interview with Paul Reeths, talking USFL, and then we'll get to you and the social media stuff. Remember, hang out with us. You can leave us a comment and drop us a message on chat. Remember, we're on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like football, then like our channel and subscribe as well. We're so close to 3,000 subscribers. I'm hoping that we can knock that out this week with all this XFL news and USFL news as well. Question of the week is reaction to the Russ Brandon hiring. We have your reaction on all the social media stuff as well. So that's what we got up. I guess I got pretty much set everything up. Looks like the stream is working now. It was kind of a little sketchy there in the beginning, but things seem to be working okay now. And so without further ado, let's just get into the week that was XFL. First up, big news in the XFL world. They officially announced, officially, not Mike Mitchell writing about it, but the XFL announces their executive leadership team. This was a press release that came out today. First, the news was broken on ESPN, and then not too long later after that, it came out on the official XFL website and through their PR people. The league welcomes an accomplished group of executives that will bring top-tier experience, drive, and innovation to the XFL. So the XFL and its ownership group, consisting of Danny Garcia, Dwayne Johnson, Redbird Capital Partners, are excited to announce the addition of 9 executive hires as the league prepares for its highly anticipated return to the field in 2023. Joining the league and returning to the league are Russ Brandon. He is now the president, League of Football Operations, essentially the Jeffrey Pollack, Oliver Luck kind of role, perhaps. Ron Gerby is the Chief Financial Officer. Jordan Slechter is the Chief Business Officer. He was with the original XFL, Janet Dutch. You remember her from the president of the New York Guardians. She is the Chief Marketing and Content Officer. Mark Ross is coming in as the Executive Vice President of Football Operations, a guy that had worked with the New York Giants. Doug Whaley has returned as Senior Vice President of Player Personnel, his similar role. Scott Harnanen is the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Technology. I believe that he was also with the team. Jay Rothman, a name that Mike Mitchell has talked about, with ties, longtime ties with ESPN. He is the Senior Vice President of Broadcast Operations. And Sydney Wagner, she is the Senior Vice President of People Operations. I believe Cindy Wagner was also part of the original XFL team. Quote from Danny Garcia, these exceptional and talented executives encompass a deep skill set that aligns with our commitment to deliver an exceptional football universe experience, as well as our shared passion for bringing the XFL back stronger than before, said Danny Garcia, XFL chairwoman and co-owner. Our team's experiences across a very professional sports leagues and brands will enable us to deliver an experience for our fans, athletes, and partners that represent today's evolution of best in class. A tremendous amount of work has already been done, with more exciting news to come as we prepare for 2023. And then the XFL tweeted out a Russ Brandon tweet there. Danny Garcia also had a tweet out there with her jacket and holding the football. Bios on some of these guys. Well, we have our own Mike Mitchell kind of broke down some of the senior new executive leadership team from the XFL. Of course, one of the interesting things that he says that several hires have been chronicled on Xfl News Hub by Mike Mitchell. The most significant hire is the former Buffalo Bills CEO Russ Brandon as league president, as we reported here when former league CEO Jeffrey Pollock departed. Brandon was one of the XFL's top candidates to assume a similar role that Pollock had with the league since 2019. Jay Rothman is also hired, and the XFL officially announced on Monday. XFL News Hub covered this story months ago, and we talked about I don't know if we talked about it here, but I think we did. For many years at ESPN, Rothman has been one of the top broadcasting executives in the industry. Rothman will be the XFL Senior VP of Broadcast Operation. He figures to play a pivotal role in how the league is presented and its broadcasting strategy, which could very likely include a streaming and documentary component, something that Mike Mitchell has talked about as well. And I believe that I would say November 1st was the kickoff I'm sure they have been filming stuff, but certainly now they are definitely filming stuff too for whatever this all-encompassing vision that they have for the XFL. The XFL's new executive team will have a mini reunion from executives who are already worked for the league in 2019 and 2020, and a Buffalo Bills reunion of sorts, where 3 of the execs had spent time upstate New York. Brandon, the new VP of Football Ops, Mark Ross, and the returning Doug Whaley all have ties with the Buffalo Bills. Ross and Whaley will be key figures in putting together all football aspects of the XFL, from the team's coaching staff to players. All the XFL teams will be restocking their rosters, but before that can happen, a whole new scouting process will come into play, along with potentially new coaches, front office, than the ones that existed in 2020. Doug Whaley's return could lead to more XFL 2020 reunions, both on the coaching and team executive side. So guys like Sam Schwartzstein, who is already getting a push from the Twitter universe, the return to the XFL, though they do have Mark Ross in that position, so we're not really sure about Sam Schwartzstein's return there. We'll see if that happens, but that's basically the gist of some of these folks in there. We have a full breakdown of that press release, including every background of every single person, and we now have a team. Some of these names we knew. We knew Jordan Slechter. We knew Janet Dutch. We knew Doug Whaley didn't hear his name out there. We have a whole article about the background of who Mark Ross is, the new XFL Vice President of Football Operations. We'll have more content revolving around some of these new players. And you can look up some of these old guys, the XFL 2.0 era. You can see them also on XFL News Hub because we have write-up on that. Now, as this story came about, the XFL refreshed its website too. And a couple things that the Twitterverse and I noticed too. First, that the XFL shop closed until 2022. That's kind of interesting. So if you go to shop.xfl.com, you'll see this banner that says new XFL shop coming in 2022. So fans are excited, of course, about all the news and the reveal, but the XFL shop is no longer in business. The words new XFL shop coming in 2022 means that there's no Black Friday sales or old or new merchandise coming in 2021. And speaking of, which is here is the interesting kind of part, and let me break it out here on the podcast. You remember this Black Friday hat, don't you? Remember this one? This could be the final piece of merchandise from the XFL 2.0 era, as they now essentially are going to, this was the last really quote-unquote new item that they had there on XFL, shop.xfl.com. Now, what's going to happen? Now we can't even buy any merch. So that makes fans wonder. So first of all, holiday merchandise is out. Our own Mike Mitchell has reported in the past that don't be surprised if not all the XFL teams remain the same in 2023, something that he's talked about multiple times. So The XFL, we know, has run into trademark issues with the Houston Roughnecks and Dallas Renegades. We talked about that, along with MLB's Cleveland Indians, now changing that to the Guardians, and the new NFL's Washington football team, stealing my America's team, DC Defenders, potentially changing their name to the Defenders. So what does this mean when it comes to this merch in 2022? Are we going to get whole new teams and whole new locations? Or are we going to get a fresh coat of paint, sort of, with some new merch potentially coming from the likes of Under Armour? We know The Rock is partnered with all those kind of guys. Is that the kind of merch are they coming? Is there going to be new teams added to this mix? This makes things very intriguing for sure. But they're shutting it down, waiting for 2022, and you know that we will be in line as soon as it opens to grab some new merch. That's for sure. Also, one last thing when it comes to the XFL's new website refresh, they're starting to hire more staff. If you go to the careers page, before the careers page basically said career information coming soon, recruitment has not yet begun. That's what it said. Now it says the XFL is a fan-first, fast-paced professional football league with innovative rules and in-game access. Our team is hard at work building the foundation to provide players a new opportunity to play the game of football and fans a highly entertaining experience when we return to the field in 2023. For the latest job postings and career opportunities, click here, and it essentially links to a LinkedIn page. This is something new from when they did this before. So if you click on the page, it's going to take you to a LinkedIn site. Now, settle down, my friends, all of you out there that are, trying to look for a job and like, oh, I'm going to get a job with the XFL. Slow your roll because there's no job postings as of yet. But they are basically putting this on this is linked to from the XFL site. So clearly this is where they're going to be posting job opportunities for the XFL. So if you are interested in being part of that news, you can just basically, you're going to have to bookmark essentially the page for XFL job postings if you want to work with the XFL. So lots of new information coming out. We're super excited about what this brings. It is only the beginning of November. More and more information will be coming out. We'll just have to stay tuned and find out. Fox Sports is expected to announce the new USFL, officially announce the USFL 2022 season this week. That's right. This was written on November 2nd. So Dylan Smith from Yellowhammer News has been reporting all about the USFL to Birmingham story. Well, the president of Alabama Sports Council, Gene Hallman, stated that the USFL plans and has stated that the plan is in the lawyers' hands. Now it looks like we're getting official word because Dylan Smith was there and he said, in a moment of personal privilege, Senator Jabo Wagner announced to the body that Fox Sports will hold a formal announcement next week, that's this week, detailing that the new USFL is coming to Birmingham. Now, what does this mean? What are they going to talk about? We don't know, but we do expect not only did the XFL make an announcement this week, but the USFL is expected to make some sort of announcement this week as well. Finally, some other alt football news. Mlfb announced cities under consideration for its 6 initial franchises. So the Major League Football, Mlfb, which has been sitting around doing nothing forever. The only thing that they've ever done was basically buy the old AAF merch, or not merch, but equipment. Frank Murtha, president and CEO of Major League Football, announced today that cities under consideration for its 6 initial team franchises: Mobile, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Little Rock, Arkansas, Norfolk, Virginia, Canton, Ohio, Dayton, Florida, Orlando, Austin, Denton, Texas, San Antonio, Oklahoma City. But here's the thing for you players out there. We'll keep an eye on this. Murtha stated that training camp for its initial 6 teams will be at the Premier Sports Complex in Lakewood Ranch, Florida in mid-April 2022, after which all teams will move to their home cities. So apparently there is some movement with Major League Football. Murtha also announced that Major League Football has retained Irish Armor Security for its corporate internal team security. I don't really, what does that have to do with anything? But they have some teams, and this is the biggest part, is that there looks like there could be some kind of tryout, something along those lines. We don't have any information, but when we do get information about some Mlfb potential tryouts, you can look to that, and that's happened supposedly in mid-April. Stay tuned for that. All right, we'll take a quick commercial break. Then we will get to our interview with Paul Reeths right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
This week on the Markcast, we're talking USFL stuff. Do you guys want to hear about USFL stuff? Is that what they want to hear about, Reed?
Well, I think there's an identity crisis here going. I don't know, USFL is becoming a thing. I don't know if it's what people are wanting it to be or not. So we are discussing that. The announcement is coming supposedly next week. Fox agents are going to be, on the grounds in Birmingham, kind of making the announcement about this spring alternative league.
That's very cool news that we got coming up. Also, Reed's got a sneaky thing to tell you all about here in a bit, but we're going to cover CFL like we always do. Argonauts clinching a playoff spot. Congrats to my team. Looking forward to seeing if maybe Montreal or Hamilton will clinch one this week.
Yeah, we have a loaded lineup. We have Sean Bowen, Toronto Argonauts digital and in-stadium host.
It's important building a culture here, a winning culture, and establishing these guys back in the community as being heroes and spotlighting what a great product the CFL is that sometimes people don't really know of.
We have Simon Staliki. He is with TSN 690.
I thought Schultz was good when he came in because I think, there was enough athleticism there that on 2nd and 4, him getting out of the pocket. Vernon as well, 2nd and 4 is always that option to get outside the pocket and, make a defender miss and pick up a first down. We'll see what Trevor Harris can do from the pocket. It's a good group, though. I don't know if it's good. It's an excellent group of receivers. So guys should be able to thrive. Your quarterback should be able to thrive here. Now, am I putting that on the offensive coordinator? I don't know.
And then we have Ethan Reddy. We're talking the little America's CFL team, the BC Lions, kind of that confusing loss to the Argos. They're going up against Hamilton. I don't feel great about that matchup, but that is what is on slate for the Lions this week.
That's a ball that he completes day after day in practice. That's a ball he needs to be making, and especially a quarterback with the experience that he has, you need to be making that pass.
It's going to be interesting to see, and we're going to also talk about a little bit of Major League Football news coming out. Apparently, there's a team and fan-controlled football. Apparently, they tweeted out something, and there's something going on with them too. You have to tune in this week for all of the news and updates right here on the Markcast.
All right, I'm here with Paul Reeths, author of the United States Football League from 1982 to 1986. Welcome to the program. I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Okay, so first, as a guy who wrote a book about the USFL, clearly you're a big USFL fan. What was your reaction when you heard the news that the USFL was coming back?
Well, not surprisingly, I have a great deal of nostalgic feelings about the old USFL. And so, when I first heard the announcement that a league named the United States Football League planned to play, I was pretty excited. I will say that some of my excitement has been tempered since then.
Okay. How so? I mean, but you heard that like Fox is involved and like all this kind of thing. So what do you mean like tempered? Why?
So I think that one of the big things to keep in mind is that the original United States Football League was a major league. One of the reasons why people have such good feelings about it was they remember the quality of play in the league. Future Hall of Famers like Steve Young, Reggie White, Jim Kelly cut their teeth in the league, and then the league was very competitive with then current NFL players as well. So it was signing quality, proven talent right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Now the climate today won't allow that. It's just too expensive to go after NFL talent. So this is not at all to denigrate kind of the current efforts, the XFLs and the Alliance of American Football, all of which I've enjoyed. I really do enjoy it, but it just feels to me like this new entity is kind of trying to glom onto some of these old nostalgic feelings for what was a major league, but they're really not going to be running the same type of operation, really, because they can't. You can't, even Fox can't compete with 32 NFL owners and the money that they're paying them.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you heard about the bubble season that'll take place in Alabama, that they're bringing back some of these names, not all of them. And then, their hope is in 3 years' time that the league will flourish and will have their own cities and that kind of thing. So you said you did watch the XFL and AAF, and these guys are basically, their approach is a little different than the XFL and AAF. They just kind of came out where the USFL is trying to come to a slow build. As somebody who wrote about the USFL, how do you feel about this kind of slow build approach by the USFL?
I am really more of a go big or go home kind of guy. What this reminds me of a lot is the United Football League, where they launched a 4-team test season. It's outdoor football. It's been done for decades, 100 years, more than 100 years now. What do you need to test? I kind of got that in 1987 when the Arena Football League launched. You're doing a really new thing. You want to see if guys are going to get killed hitting into the boards, or how the kickoffs work off the nets. I understood that. I understood doing a test season for that. I don't understand a bubble season in 2022. I would have understood a bubble season maybe even early this year or last year, certainly. And I don't understand a half bubble season planned in 2023. I mean, if you're going to do this, I think you get into the local markets, all the local markets, and you establish yourself and you see what works and what doesn't.
Oh, interesting. So what was your reaction watching the XFL and AAF, those leagues?
So I enjoyed them. The original XFL, I think the expectations were too high. It was trying to stay on primetime network television when Monday Night Football's ratings were dropping consistently on ABC. It was having a hard time staying on network television. And so for the XFL to do that on a Saturday, which is a down viewership night, I just didn't think that was a viable plan. But I did enjoy, if you got outside some of the WWE theatrics, I did enjoy the football itself. And I felt that it improved, and I felt that I think it's fun to see guys getting a chance and going out there and giving everything they have. And it doesn't have to be about the big names and about almost a cult of personality that develops around major league sports. It can be a lot of fun. It's a different animal than a major league. And that's fine, as long as you're kind of just upfront and honest about what it is.
Yeah. So what about the 2.0 era that got shut down because of, COVID and all that stuff? Did you watch any of those games before they closed shop?
Virtually all of them.
Okay.
Enjoyed it too. Had my kids watching AAF, had them watching the XFL. I think that there's something fun about being in on the ground floor of something.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, lately we haven't been able to get off the ground floor. We haven't been able to get through a year even.
Yeah. So how did you get into the USFL?
So I was a pretty young guy when the USFL launched, so just really getting into football. And I was just, it was just such a great experience being able to have year-round professional football. And again, this was a major league. So you had Herschel Walker, the best college player in the country. All of a sudden, he's playing just after the Super Bowl ends. You have, just talent like Anthony Carter and Bobby Hebert and all the guys that George Allen brought into the Chicago team, all the NFL talent. And playing at a normally off time of year. And at that time, the draft wasn't as big of a deal. There wasn't free agency. So when the NFL was done with the Pro Bowl the week after the Super Bowl was when it was played at that time. Pro football was largely done until training camps broke. So it was just a boon, and to see the talent that the league was able to assemble, just a ton of fun for me.
Now, did you go to games, or were you just watching it on TV? Like, where was your fandom or at?
Yeah, television. I grew up in central Wisconsin, so there wasn't really a very close team.
Yeah.
So, watch the TV games. And of course, that was when ESPN was still kind of in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And the USFL was big on ESPN. It was the highest rated property on the network, really responsible for a lot of the network's growth in the early years. People look back on ESPN and they don't realize that it was owned by an oil company at the time, and they didn't know what to do with it. And there was still a lot of question about, is this a viable thing? Cable TV was still growing, and people didn't know, but the USFL was really the property that really helped propel ESPN in its early years.
Oh, interesting. And so the USFL comes in, they got all this big talent. Then what were the problems that started? I mean, because it's the only spring league that's lasted more than a couple of years. What was kind of its downfall?
I think the downfall, to be honest, was that it was a major league. That you kind of look back on the history, especially in the latter part of the 20th century, and all the alternative leagues that launched, including the All-American Football Conference was just before the midpoint of the century. But then after that, you had the American Football League, the American Basketball Association, the World Hockey Association. And so you had all these major league competitors. Well, the USFL was really the last one in the line. And the reason why we haven't had any more since then is that the television money that the major leagues get has made them almost unassailable. It would take the most unlikely collection of billionaires working together to even be able to hold on for a few years. And so it just hasn't happened. It hasn't just been in football. Nobody's launched in basketball, nobody's launched in hockey, and nobody's launched in baseball. And the reason for that is, there's just too much network television money coming to the leagues to where the gates are too high. And that the USFL, I think, really launched at a time when that was just starting. The USFL lasted for 3 full seasons. And a lot of people look at the league in terms of failure. Why did it fail? I've almost taken the opinion that it's nearly miraculous that it lasted as long as it did. And it didn't miss games, and it did its thing. And it did so when nobody else has been able to launch. It's certainly a lot easier. It was a lot easier to launch a basketball or hockey league, but nobody had done it since the ABA and WHA, and certainly football is where your bar is the highest. So the fact that it lasted all 3 seasons is a near miracle.
So could it, if it had lasted longer, like what would have, like I've heard things about the USFL. I've heard about Donald Trump, that he kind of ruined things, but I don't know about that. I've heard that, they tried to move from the spring to the fall, and if they had stayed in the fall, then the league could potentially still be here today. What was somebody who that wrote the book about it? What do you think was kind of the big, were those catalysts, or was it just the timing?
So let's start with Trump, and let's take an apolitical approach that neither indemnifies nor demonizes him. He spent a lot on talent. He wasn't the first guy. He came in year 2, and by then the league was already way over budget. They had already made an exception where they were going to compete for kind of 3 to 6 round draft picks and some almost marginal or backup NFL talent, or guys who needed more of an opportunity, maybe starter level, but needed more of an opportunity. Then they made some exceptions. All right, we're going to have kind of 2 marquee players per team that we can sign. Then they signed Herschel Walker. George Allen in Chicago is signing everybody he can get a name on a contract. So it's just, you had very competitive business people who were very used to succeeding. And so they wanted to succeed in the field. The Michigan Panthers found themselves in a hole to begin the season. They weren't protecting their quarterback. So they went out and signed the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Those things, at the time, they were bargains, but they all cost money and they all blew up the salary structure. And the revenues that were available in the spring, particularly television revenues, couldn't keep up with the spending. Now, Trump and some of the guys who came in the second year probably accelerated that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why the league is remembered so fondly, is that they had this great talent. So I think it was well on its path. I think that the fiscal discipline that would have been needed to keep the league afloat, I don't know that it's possible when you have a group of businessmen who are competitive funding the whole thing.
So essentially, the owners essentially, by overspending and not having that structure, kind of just made it, in a sense, collapse on itself then.
And I think that the argument can be, yes, I think that that's what ended up happening. Now, if they had not done that, if they had not spent the money, then maybe the interest isn't there.
True.
Maybe that you had a huge boost with the Herschel Walker signing coming into year one. It was a great, amongst the American public at large, and then especially among sports fans, you had a great recognition of what the USFL was before it ever took the field because of that publicity that it had generated. Mm-hmm. The week 1 ratings were almost NFL ratings, and it was because of what they had done there. So if you don't spend, you're trying to do almost like an NFL Europe level or an XFL level, before any of that had been done. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that they haven't been able to keep it afloat either.
Yeah. So what about the idea that that they were trying, what killed the league was trying to move to play in the fall? Was that really serious, or were they always going to stick with the spring?
There were some owners who wanted to play regardless of season, but I think that really the move to the fall was to try to force something with the NFL.
Some type of merger.
Yeah, an accommodation of some kind, probably closer to what the American Basketball Association had with the NBA, where you accept a certain number of teams and then everybody else who still has a team gets paid off to go away.
Gotcha. So it was more of a last ditch, let's get the league to merge with the owners wanted it to merge with the NFL more than that they were actually seriously thinking that they could compete in the fall against the NFL.
That's my belief. I think that there were some owners who were ready to give it a go in the fall. Wow. And particularly, you look back on it, and with the growth of ESPN, if they had been able to make it through 2-3 years with just ESPN, the behemoth that ESPN became, would that have given them more leverage? It would have been tremendously expensive, though, to make it through even a couple more seasons. And you didn't have ownership anymore. You would have lost Trump in New York. You had no ownership there. You had already lost Los Angeles. Chicago was technically still a league member, but hadn't fielded a team since 1984. So you had no teams in the biggest markets in the U.S. then, and so that I don't look upon it as something that was going to happen.
Gotcha. Interesting. And so my final question is, so do you think spring football in the United States in 2021 coming into, now we're 2022, where the USFL is starting, 2023 XFL, do you think spring football can work in the United States? Do you think somebody can get it going to that where it would work?
What I think is that the piece of the puzzle that's missing is media rights. Is that that is such a huge piece of what makes the NFL successful, with so much of their revenue coming off of television rights. You can't generate it with in-stadium attendance. You're going to have lower than fall numbers in stadium attendance in the spring and summer. You're going to have lower ticket prices. So they can reasonably project what they can make with in-stadium attendance. The rest of it has to be made up with media rights or some other piece. So Fox taking an ownership stake, I think, is a little bit of a recognition that we need to cut out middlemen here. And we need to see, essentially capture all the broadcast revenues. We're going to be the ones selling the advertising. So we're going to see the entire revenue picture here. I think that helps. It's going to have to show that it has staying power. It's going to certainly lose money for that 3 to 5 year span, and significant money. So you got to be able to hold on that long. And then you have to be able to figure out that extra piece. I think the Alliance kind of had this idea with gambling and with an app and some kind of monetization strategy that I didn't wholly understand.
Yeah.
But I think they understood the problem. I'm not sure that they had a grasp on any kind of solution there.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is another attempt with network ownership that, maybe this works. Again, what's kind of left, bad taste in my mouth a little bit is that this is supposed to honor the old USFL. It's supposed to recognize what it had done before. And yet they're almost trying to do this end around on the guys who used to be involved with the names and logos. I don't know how you honor anything by trying to work around rather than with the people who were involved originally.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
I would hope that it, not only the players and the coaches, but the administration and the owners who had lost tremendous amount of money would be kind of invited into this process. If you truly want to make this, something that recognizes and in some kind of way builds off all the goodwill that the original USFL engendered.
Interesting. Final question. If you're a betting man 3 years from now, USFL, XFL, or nothing, what do you think is left standing in 3 years from now?
I do not bet at all. The history of spring football, particularly the recent history, is not good.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking to play the odds,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not jumping into that pool at all. But yeah, competition is good. I think, though, that there should be a way for these groups to work together, because I think that it's going to be a tough slog for anybody.
Yeah.
And getting through those first few years is going to be vitally important, because you're gonna lose tons of money. And just, if we think about what if you had that Redbird Capital money and the Fox money, the Redbird Capital is the other half of the USFL equation, or vice versa. Yeah. It would be nice to see, something work in the spring. It'd be tremendous fun, because I do enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun. So you'll be watching in the spring USFL games?
I'll be watching. Yes. Yeah. I'll be pulling for, whoever launches.
Who was your team in the USFL?
I really loved them all, but I don't think you can beat those Michigan Panthers helmets. Those are great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Paul, thanks for stopping in with us, and check out his book. He's the author of the United States Football League from 1982 to 1986. Thanks for being on the show.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And you can find the book on Amazon. Just search my last name or that title.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. And speaking of XFL News Hub, there is the XFL News Hub app that we just talked about. But guess what? There is an update. We had an update. We rolled out an update to the XFL News Hub app just over the weekend, just in time for this craziness to hit. So it's the 4.0 app. I still see that there might be one or two issues in there. I have to clean up the menu a little bit. But it is the brand new, it's an upgraded app. Next project is to add an app to CFL News Hub. If you never check out CFL News Hub and all the CFL news, head over to there. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to get down to the playoffs, and there's some intrigue going around. And we have the Steelers game right now, and Duck Hodges is the quarterback in the for Ottawa Red Blacks, which not a very good team, but he's out there. And a lot of former XFL players are doing very well in the league, including guys like Sean Oakman and Taylor Cornelius is quarterback for the Edmonton Elks, who they're not doing very well either. So it's a lot of fun. So anyway, so we have the XFL News Hub app. It is all upgraded, so you can download that. And we're going to look to do a CFL News Hub app also. So we'll get to your social media stuff and everybody on the Instagram or on the chat room. We appreciate that. However, I have a special guest that has returned to the show. I said when the XFL has a real announcement, Finn the dog will return to the show. So you could see the difference between what he was in August, I think this was time frame, to now. He's sleeping underneath here. Hey, Pop, come here for a second. Come here, Pop. All right, here he comes. This is Finn, the Boston Terrier dog. He is over a year old now. And he was trying to sleep, and I'm bothering him to. He wants to make an appearance and say hello to everybody. He has returned. We said Finn would return when there was an actual XFL announcement, and it is now November. So the last time you saw him, I think, was either July or August. You just want to go to bed, don't you? He's like, broski, I'm taking a nap. So Finn will return when we have our first coach or team announcement. We will have Finn back. So it is November 8th, 2021, and we'll have him back when they. He's like, look at it. He's like, he just wants to go to sleep. You tired, Pop? All right, we're gonna let him sleep. So he is back in there. So he will return. So you'll clearly see that he looks bigger, but he has returned. So we're excited to have him on the show. Next time you see Finn, the dog will be on. It's okay, Pup. You can go back to bed. I won't bother you anymore. He's like standing there. He's like standing around like, what are you doing? Like, do I have to get up again? We will have him on the show when we have more news. When get our first coaching hire. There he goes. Okay, he's got everybody's concerned. He's got his spot back. He's good to go. All right, let's hang out with some of the guys on the. What did you think of the interview? With Paul? You can get his book on Amazon. We have links in the show notes and in the description. You can get and check out his book there. I'm definitely going to get a copy of it. A lot of interesting things. I really enjoyed his take on a couple things, especially, honoring the old USFL. I thought that was really interesting. I didn't really kind of think of that. And then also his view about, what it would take to get a league going. And really, merging together would probably help both leagues. Who knows with the Fox and whatever. So it was just really great conversation. We're going to check in with him when the USFL season is over, kind of get his take on what he thought the USFL season was. Jason, on the chat said, I wanted to get some stuff from the XFL shop. Besides that, I'm happy with the announcements. Yeah, I knew they were getting to, remember that everything was 50% off. I thought maybe that they would want to cash in on the XFL name and maybe get some merch. But I think that cost analysis, I'm sure, outweighs what the plan is. And it could potentially be new team names, new locations. Who knows? Richard says, me too, but I can't wait to see what the mechanics they will have, merchandise maybe, they will have in 2023. He says, Jason says, imagine Under Armour merch. The possibilities are endless. And Richard says, hell yeah, with some Under Armour. Yeah, I mean, that would be, of course. Why not? So hopefully we get some Under Armour leaks of some designs or something like that. We're also checking the trademark wire. They know, the XFL knows that we are checking that constantly if there's any changes to that. So it will be interesting what happens with the team names, what happens with the logos, what the merch is going to look like. But clearly they outweighed. One of the things I thought of through this whole process was how cool would it be during the Super Bowl week. Now we'll see if Russ Brandon is the guy that's kind of like the Oliver Luck going to the different, and he's on Radio Row during the Super Bowl. Would the XFL want to cash in on that power? This is what I would do if I was the XFL, and I have stuff in the works. I mean, you have December and you have January and that February Super Bowl time. That Super Bowl week, you want to generate buzz and get people interested. I would every day. So you have that Radio Row. Everybody has talked about the Super Bowl from, who has the best punter, who has the best cleats. I mean, the content is basically dwindling as it gets to game time. And they've analyzed every angle of this thing. How great would it be some major XFL announcements during that Super Bowl week? Every day announce a new team, or every day announce a new logo. Whatever it is, just do some kind of announcement every day and capture that energy that's going on and get people excited about your league. The other thing, the reason this kind of took us all surprised, it was a Monday at 9:00 and this thing kind of came out, was that the USFL news is on the way too. And like somebody pointed out somewhere that, that we're having another AAF, US XFL, USFL, XFL kind of thing, where one is getting pushed out quickly, the other one's taking its time, and we're going to have to see how this all plays out. So let's get to some of your social media stuff. Remember, we're live on Facebook. Leave us a comment. On Twitch, leave us a comment. And on YouTube's, leave us a comment as well. All right, let's first up get to some Facebookage. Our friends on Facebook. About the XFL hiring more staff soon, Jared said, I would love to be part of the XFL if I lived near any of the cities. We don't know what the cities are yet. Michael says, that's awesome. Leon says, where do players sign up? I'm a free agent, slot tight end, ready to compete for a roster spot in the XFL. I've said this over and over again. Hub Football is the place to be. Just look up Hub Football if you're an aspiring USFL or XFL person. That's the best way to start to get your name out there. I would start with that. Messaging me and looking for some kind of tryout. I haven't heard any official tryouts. There was talk of having a USFL type tryout in partnership with somebody. We'll have to see if any of those announcements come out. On the Russ Brandon hiring, Michael says 2023. By that time, a washed up, he is now Odell, and many others now on their last legs in the NFL can play in the XFL. I don't know about others, but this league buildup has left me with little interest. They should be kicking off in 2022. There's nothing wrong with that. Steven says, nice. Hopefully they keep the teams that are in at the moment. I would love to see them keep the teams, maybe move one or two and add two. Jim says, why does it take 3 years to play, and are they sure it's 2023? Not say 2026? One of the things we've seen all this stuff is that they are saying 2023, 2023, 2023. This battle plan that they have set up, and some, even Mike Mitchell had mentioned too, that he believed that maybe this CFL, like there was always going to be 2023, and that the CFL chatter was just, an exercise to kind of, soften that blow, but also, to explore that, but really that they were never really interested in 2022, rather 2023. Just throwing it out there as well. Some other things about Josh Johnson. You saw him playing this week. Awesome to see him out there throwing 3 touchdowns. Nathan says journeyman stud performance. Totally. Tal says throws 3 TDs when they were down 42-10 in the second half. It wasn't his fault. I agree with you there. That was a great night for Josh Johnson. Great to see him out there. Fox Sports, their announcement this week. Will says nobody wants to visit Birmingham. They should have put it in Houston. Hotels aren't great in Birmingham. Crime, not a lot to do, etc. Oh, not very nice. He said, have you ever lived there? No, they assume blah, blah, blah. Todd says it won't be the same. Thank Generals owner Donald Trump for forcing the move to the fall of 1986. Now, you heard Paul say that wasn't true. I asked him about the Trump thing, and he said it's not that quite accurate. And the way he kind of explains it, it's not his fault. There was other owners kind of overspending and some owners wanting to take on the NFL in the fall. But as Paul had said, the reason why they did this to move to the fall was because they were trying to get the NFL to not they had no intention of taking on the NFL because they were so in shambles at that point. They were hoping to get picked up by the NFL and their teams to get picked up by the NFL, and that didn't happen. So I don't blame the Donald for the demise of the USFL, even though that is something that's out there. Brad says, let's see here. No, St. Louis, play your games on the moon for all we care. I guess our crazy attendance numbers mean nothing. Interesting. Yeah. Brian says nothing can compete with the NFL. I don't think competing in the NFL is a good strategy. No one's competing with the NFL. Jared says, how many minor league football leagues have there been now? I have no problem with them if they could stick around, but they don't. So it's just easier and better to watch college football all divisions. We'll see. While I wish they would do Hub Cities, Beham will work. I'm excited about Birmingham. Roger says, what makes them think another football league will be successful this time around? We'll have to find out. Scott says, so will they fold after 4 games? Not some love for the USFL. Mlfb, any love for them? Probably not. Justin says 64 minor league semi-pro football teams, 8 conferences. Okay. Patrick says would be nice to have another pro league again. You know what really did the XFL dirty? They probably would still be playing if it weren't for that. I agree with that. Hope the one launches, and I hope they pick Denton, Texas for a home team. Alan says, not sure if these guys understand the irony of calling themselves Major League and putting teams in Mobile, Little Rock, and Montgomery unless they plan to broadcast games on on or by ham radio. This will not work. Yeah, I'm not feeling anything when it comes to MLFB doing much of anything. And about the preseason set for March 1st, anyone see anything about tryouts? Aaron is asking. Again, the thing that we're hearing about is that there could be some kind of tryout type thing going on before that, maybe in February, but maybe they're doing some kind of open tryout with partnering with somebody. That's something kind of thing that we're kind of hearing. All right, let's hit to some Instagram, shall we? Russell, the Truth Seeker, said, talking about Russ Brandon being named. Yeah, the XFL is back. Christopher says, give the people what they want. XFL football, baby. Yes, totally agree with him there. Danny Garcia, would you see her with her jacket? We'll get into that in a second. Of course, the shop. Russell says, I'm ready to buy some new XFL gear. Me too. M_E_X_99, hoping Under Armour will be the manufacturer of the uniforms and other clothing. Yes, we totally agree with that, hoping that Under Armour will be that provider of all that good stuff. And that's what we got going on in the Instagram stuff. Under Armour would be huge. Would it be surprising? Absolutely not. With The Rock and everything that he's got going on with them, it's clearly, I'd be stunned if it was anybody other than Under Armour. And they have great products. And I mean, sometimes I think it would be better if it was just Vince McMahon. But then sometimes I'm like Danny Garcia, The Rock, Redbird Capital. This could be the mix that makes it work. 3 years. We just want to see a spring football league last 3 years would be great. That's all we're hoping for right now. And then we'll see what happens there. All right, on to the YouTubes. Everybody likes the YouTubes. George says, where the other teams play in all the games in Birmingham. Yes, all the games are in Birmingham, but eventually they will move out into other cities, and they'll have 4 teams in Birmingham and the 4 teams in other cities, slowly building it out. But like as Paul said, like just rip the Band-Aid off and go. You know how to play football. You know the play is going to be good. Why is this slow kind of trial thing? Just get out there. Daniel says, so the Carolina Panthers think that they are the Pittsburgh Steelers or the San Francisco 49ers. They are an expansion team that started in 1995 and have 0 Super Bowls. How are they to claim the trademark? It's true there. Carolina got their name from the USFL, so they have a lot of nerve, Gary says. And Cedric says, where are all these teams practice? I'm thinking they can all practice at college cities in the Birmingham. I think they're going to use that facility, that all the teams will be practicing there. And Legion Field, I think that is kind of the thing there, is what the chatter is. Theodore talking about our podcast last week, and Jerry Cardinal in that interview said, I love the fact that Wayne Gretzky was quoted in the Sportico interview. Ken says, if Fox is not going with XFL, I see USFL trying to sell their franchises to local owners. For instance, someone from Denver buying a team and opening up shop in Denver. Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's a huge ton of rich people out there, lining up to buy football teams. I mean, just ask, how Fan Control Football is doing it. They're just, little pieces of those teams for fun. Maybe guys throwing in a couple $100,000 to be part of a Fan Control Football. But you're talking millions and millions of dollars to fund one of these teams here. Isaiah says, what if Deshaun Watson just said screw the NFL for 1 year and play in the USFL or XFL or Fan Control Football? Hear me out here, okay? I feel this way because of the trade deadline also having guys like Deshaun Watson, Kaepernick, Eric Reed, Terrell Pryor, Ruggs, destroying Marquette King and Terrell Owens. I don't know why. I play Madden, and I'm going to be, so all my Twitch friends out there, I'm going to be starting to Twitch out when I play Madden. Usually it's on Wednesday nights. My wife is, the cheer practice, and there's all this stuff going. Wednesday is my Madden night, and I'm going to hopefully this week connect the XFL News Hub Twitch account to Madden so you could see me play terribly in Madden. But I was looking for Marquette King. I'm like, why is this guy not in the CFL or even getting a shot in the NFL? I don't understand. You've seen the crazy videos he has. I don't get it. And he was great in the XFL too. Theodore says, I think Danny and Jerry talking XFL and Sportico is a great sign. Unfortunately, we're still approximately 17 months away from kickoff, but they did a fairly good job of reassuring the fan. If a month of work is being in business for 3 years with all the layering that they do, then it'll be like the league has been around for 51 years by the time the XFL is ready to go in 2023. This gives the league stability, but I hope this isn't what they meant when they said they're planning to be a 100-year brand. That was more of a Jeffrey Pollock thing. He would talk about that a lot, that they were looking long-term. And I bet you, Danny, there are players in the XFL staff-wise that are in this new regime announced today. So I'm sure that mantra is going to continue. Ron says XFL should go in Tennessee, like Chattanooga, Knoxville, Memphis, Nashville, plus Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, basically, all these markets are wide open. And if you notice, the USFL has team names, but they're not necessarily in those markets. They're in the hub city. So the XFL can do whatever they want. And we've said, tinfoil hat, that it was interesting that the USFL picked cities that didn't compete with the XFL. Opening up, Fox can do its thing, XFL can do its thing. They have a season, and then they merge, and then they basically have, a huge league with 16 teams. Maybe throw in the CFL then after that. Then you're ready to rock and roll. Let's get to some Twitter, shall we? Krockenberger says, is the league folding? The USFL is not folding. I don't know what you're talking about there. About Danny Garcia's jacket. So one of the things I was like, what's up with their jacket? And CFL NFL 22 says that's a Rolling Stones collection from 2021. No Filter Tour 2021 tour. It was in Vegas last night, Los Angeles last week. Real? Oh, is that what it says? Rolling Stones? That's a fan. I was like, is that like the new look? Is that the new merch that the XFL is coming? What's up with the jacket? He's saying it's from Rolling Stones collection. So we'll have to see what the deal is with that. About the shop closing, Arena fan Ken Gill says, go to Amazon, go to the Zwilly store and search XFL 30. Have different types of flags, pillows, wall decor. So there is. And then Carraro Vince says, cease and desist. Yeah, they're going to get in trouble now that he posted that. Because unless they don't care. About Russ Brandon News, at Kenny Brown 131 on Twitter says, brilliant news for 2023. So much to look forward to over the next 18 months for non-NFL fans. Hopefully USFL makes it through the 2022 season, and then we will be headed to quite an interesting proposition in 2023. Absolutely, 100%, totally agree with you. It really makes things interesting for 2023. This 2022 is going to be crazy. At Travis Sy says, XFL is a joke. The FCF is better? All right. A little trolly kind of thing. Chuckers1 says about hiring Kevin Seifert's article. Hopefully the new XFL will not blackball players by putting them on an ineligible list and refusing to tell them why. Like the old XFL did, new leadership should address this so players know if they potentially will be sullied by a secret designation. What are you talking about, Chuckers1? Never heard anything. Are you talking about the 1.0 era? Are you talking about the 2.0 era? Never heard anything about that. Fill us in there. And, Brian Hirsch, I don't know who Brian Hirsch is. Hey, player combine. He said player combines for the Fan Control Season 2.0 start this December in 2021. Talked to former Browns Josh Gordon, who's a standout as on the Zappers, now thriving with the chief OBD. Our people will call your people. I haven't heard anything. And then Travis says, I doubt OBJ will be going to the FCC. When does the combine start for it? He's saying something about December. I haven't heard anything. That was the only place I've ever heard with somebody on Twitter saying that Fan Control Football is having some kind of combine in December. Have not heard that whatsoever. If I'm wrong, Fan Control Football, send me a message and let me know there. What's up, Al? What else is going on in the chat room with my friends there? Let's see. Theodore says, I'm thinking San Antonio Gunslingers is going to be a thing in the USFL. Jared says, I hope it's XFL. He said, I don't understand a bubble season all either. I mean, I get it. But like he said, like these guys know what the projection is and the money thing is. I wonder if it's almost a way to sell for higher dollars to advertisers or to prove to potential owners that want to buy a team. But even if you buy a USFL team for $1 million, like you're going to have to sink in quite an amount of money. And you talk about it would need... I mean, like the original USFL, they just kind of went crazy. Like there would have to be structure built in. I just don't see it. And I've said this before. It's just the spring league with a USFL skin. Until I'm seeing season tickets and team presidents, I'm not too worried about it. And that goes for either league. And there's been no chatter in the XFL about doing some kind of bubble season there. Let's see. Denzel says, all I want my Battlehawks back. That would be nice there. Stock Speed Tech says, Thanks, missed most, but this is still the best. Gregory says, just to be clear, Birmingham and Protective Stadium doesn't have to take a backseat to any city or stadium. We welcome the USFL with open arms. There you have that. All right, let's get to a phone call, shall we?
Hi, this is Richard, better known on Twitter, Richard O for real. I'm just calling to let you know I'm very excited about the new hiring the Xfl done today. I can't wait to see what new merch they have next year and the coaches and players they're trying to get for the new season. I know all that's coming, but I also would like to know the TV deals they will have next year for the 2023 season. I also like to say Fox and USFL, once they do announce their plan for their 2022 season, I will be turning in, but my really excitement is really for the XFL. And that's about it.
All right. Thank Richard O for real checking in. We're not going to get anything. I haven't heard anything with the XFL or any kind of TV deal, any of that kind of stuff. We haven't heard anything yet. We're just kind of waiting and seeing. Hopefully this week we will get some kind of news. Let's get to some emailers real quick. Stanley, let's see here, is saying, we have any information on where and when the USFL will hold player tryouts. So there's nothing that I've heard of about player tryouts or anything. We will keep you posted on XFL News Hub when we hear that. Mark says, this is Coach Lozano from Cancun, Mexico. I'd like to speak to you about football. Again, I don't know. Can't really help you when it comes to I'm telling you everything I know. There's nothing really going on there. And I think that's about it. What do we got going on the Facebooks real quick? Let's check in there. Having some squirrely issues with our internet connection this show. It's been great sometimes, and all of a sudden it will stop. Let's see. Brett says, easy to save money. Jared on the Facebook says, Mlfb looks like they are a backyard football league, it seems like. Totally minor league, like indoor football league, and FCF are bigger and better. Yeah, FCF is definitely bigger and better there. So those are all of our friends on the Facebooks. We'd like to also thank all of our pals on the YouTube as well. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, you just email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate that. Leave us that message on there. Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and, of course, Apple Podcasts. And you can watch the show live every week. XFL Week in Review at 8 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch as well. All of those platforms out there for you. Question for next week's program is going to be your reaction to the news, the USFL news. We'll have full coverage of that next week as well. We got links in the show notes. We'd like to thank Paul and Paul Reeths for his book, The USFL History. Definitely check that out. There's links in the show notes, and you can get it on Amazon. Just type his name on Amazon, and you can find it there. I'm definitely getting a copy this week. And that's it for this week's show, my friends. All right, make sure you download our new app, our updated app, show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. Join us on the Discord as well. Thanks for listening, my friends. Mahalo. God bless. And enjoy Monday Night Football, and I will see you all later.